Welcome everybody to the Type Thursday Book Club. This week we got a special guest and a special book. Thanks for everybody joining us on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So this week we have our host, Thomas Jockin, right here, as the founder of Type Thursday. We have Michael Mondragon of Type Thursday Phoenix, Matheo of Type Thursday Los Angeles, and we have a special guest this week I'm very excited about, Zach Hill. Zach, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, it's very exciting. So, what are we reading this week, everybody? We are well, actually, I don't have that slide up yet. First things first, what is Type Thursday? Type Thursday is a meeting place for people who love type. We meet in person at Type Thursdays around the world, right now in Phoenix and LA, where people share work in progress projects related to letter forms. And you have dialogue with the audience. You get feedback. It's energizing. It's giving. It's a fantastic in-person experience. When we're not in person together, we're online here at the Type Thursday Book Club. So there's my slide. So this week, the reason why Zach is here, we invited Zach is because of his background as a strategist. And this week we are reading This is Strategy by Seth Godin. So that is the book we're reading, and we are applying our rubric. So reminder, what is our rubric we've been using this season is 5 criteria: clarity of concepts, visual inspiration, practical application, typographic insight, and overall impact. Our format is everybody privately read the book. We rated it. We do not know our ratings of one another. We're now coming live, and we're going to reveal our ratings and our reasonings why we rate the book according to these rubric. And we're going to have a discussion about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And don't forget to add your ratings as we go over the sections on the chat. So with that said, Michael, roll us through, as I hit my mic, roll us through to the Big Jam board. Our revealing order will be Matheo, then Zach, Michael, and then myself.
Alrighty, fam. So This is Strategy by Seth Godin. Definitely one of the best books on strategy, and one of the few that I had seen out there that got me into thinking about design at a bigger level. And I'm really glad we read this book because it came at such a perfect time where I'm actually working with a client right now to bring design strategy to the business table. And so this was just divine timing that it all came together. One of the strongest things about Seth Godin's writing style is I think he's really clear. Like he goes through argument after argument, giving us wonderful examples and demonstrations. So this particular criteria, I'm falling right at a 4.5. I wanted to give him a 5. I did. But there were definitely some sections of the book, some areas where, because I'm dealing with a strategy problem now, I was like, oh, I just need a little bit more. Like, I just need a little bit to take me past, like, you've revealed to me the concept. You've explained to me how strategy can help. And you've given me some small examples, how this plays out in systems and systems that fail, systems that succeed. But then it was just missing the extra piece for me to explain it and, drive it home for me. And that was my assessment on clarity of concepts.
Sweet. I think it's my turn now, right?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So I'm kind of in a similar boat in the sense where I think his writing style and the way he's approaching explaining strategy is pretty strong when it comes to teaching the basic concepts and like how to approach strategy as a practice. But I do think there's something left to be desired when it comes to some of the tactical applications, or like how to do strategy in a business environment or a design environment or a UX environment. So because of that, I'm close to you, but I'm actually going to go a 4 instead of a 4.5. I think it's obviously pretty solid, but again, like if you're looking to get a book on like how to do strategy in like a conference room or with design clients, I think there's better options than this. But if you're looking to get a good concept of what strategy can be for your business and your clients, I think this is solid.
Yeah, I agree with the first 2 scores here. I'm gonna probably go right under Matheo right here. I'll put my my forehead or his chin right there. Yeah, so I'm pretty much at the same spot too. Like I wanted to give this a 5 as well. Having read just a few of Seth Godin's other books, I was really looking forward to seeing this one because I had not been able to have the time to dive into this one, but having this book club is a good reason to do this, and I think that like these are complicated things. So like, and again, like Matteo said, this was like a perfect timing for me as well, because it was a great reminder that if you don't have a strategy, then there's one thing between planning and then there's also strategy. But you're right. I feel like I didn't get enough out of it. I got the reminder of like what I should be doing, which is thinking to myself, like, instead of asking like, what should I do next? I should be thinking like, what change do I want to make? And I think that was that differentiator was a really good reminder for me. And especially, these are very trying times and we're all trying to find work and trying to do bigger things. And I think the strategy it's always going to be the most important thing. And right now I have a big to-do list rather than strategy. So it was a great reminder for that.
So I think my job, once again, old man Jockin coming in as the curmudgeonly hater of the group. So rating this week, I think similar, kind of building what everyone's saying here to kind of save the suspense. I gave it a 3. Here's why. The idea is super solid. I think, quite frankly, the notion of time, and that's the relationship of what strategy is. Strategy is a relationship to time. That's right there. Congratulations. You just got the big idea of the book, right? So like it's there. That's fantastic. And then it's almost as iterate. And then it's the aspect of that other aspect is relationship to probability. So the idea of like based on contingency of the future, how do you respond to that? That's a relationship to probability. So that's a absolutely great heuristical stance. Time and the idea of elegance, right? The idea of thinking in design with a strategy orientation is not just a bunch of disparate things, but thinking about them as a unity that come together and kind of and have a multiplying effect to achieve a business goal, especially under limited resources or constraints and limitations. Fantastic. Here's the problem though. I understand this because I've been doing this kind of thinking for 15 years, right? So the systems level thinking, I think of designers, we've used the language of systems thinking. Like this is something that we Seth doesn't say that, but that's basically the closest, I think, link for us is that kind of thinking. If you're a brand new person in the field, there's no way you're catching this. You're just going to get washed over with these aphorisms basically over and over again. And you'll get a vibe. I consider this a vibe book. So it's very good. Hit this book on a 2X and just vibe out to it. You're going to get a lot of vibes. But in terms of like the real, which is great for people who already know it. Like for those who already like, this is a fantastic book for remembrance because if you already live in this space of thinking, you're going to get a lot of insight from this book. You're going to get reminders. It's fantastic for that. If you're a beginner, this is why I knocked it to a 3. This is going to be like, you're going to get a big wash of vibes. The problem is you don't know what to do with it. That's basically the tension. And there's things in there they kind of pick out or more systematic, but they're very, you got 250 sayings basically, or prompts. It's very difficult to find the ones that are the more concrete for the beginner. That's more, I was thinking about that in my rating. So overall, but pure vibes, but great insights. I think just even those 3 heuristical outlines, which many of the aphorisms are pointing to or referring to is fantastic value and understanding. I think it's good things you absolutely need in the industry, especially if you want to level up in your career to a more senior level position or a leadership position. This is all you're thinking about. This is fantastic. But the problem is for beginners, you're going to get totally washed out. So I think books like 7 Habits will be much more effective. It's almost like you got to read 7 Habits, then you can come to this book, and then you can kind of get the relationship going on. So that's my rating.
Wow, excellent connections that you made for us, Thomas. I really do believe that if you go to 7 Habits first and then you come to this book, This is Strategy with Seth Godin, you'll be more successful in interpreting this and also finding new ways to apply it that Seth doesn't even cover in the book. Because you're right, he's giving more of an overview of what strategy is, how to see it, how to think from a systems level, which is kind of funny because Zach did say that, maybe this is a beginner level book, but then the beginner wouldn't get it. So it's kind of like, where does this book fall then? But it's good. I think it still has its place. So Zach, do you want to maybe chat more about that?
Yeah, I think Thomas said it best, but I think it's good for vibes. I think if you're just looking to get kind of an overall feeling of what strategy could be for who you are as a design practitioner or business practitioner, I think this is an okay place to start, maybe just to get the vibe. But I think there's I would recommend actually Roger Martin has written a lot of great strategy books, and he's someone that actually tries to connect design and strategy as a practice. He's written the book Design of Business, for example, Playing to Win. And I bring those books up because those are very kind of if you want to integrate strategy into your design practice, those are great, tangible, ideas and frameworks you could bring into your practice. Where, again, this is more if you're trying to get a general vibe, that's something here, right? But you're not going to get much more than that, I think.
Yeah, and I also think that if you were a beginner, just all those examples you wouldn't think about those companies or those entities having strategy to do what they do. So in that sense, it is kind of familiarizing them, but it is, again, you wouldn't know what to do with it afterwards and how to apply that, and especially for what they're doing, because obviously a beginner isn't the Savannah Bananas trying to disrupt the market in a certain way, but it's it does give you the sense that you could do that. You could disrupt the system, but you'd have to do it on your level.
Yeah.
A note, shall we transition?
And chat, if you've read the book, don't forget to drop in your ratings in each criteria as well.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
You're up.
Oh God. Okay, so throughout this entire book, the only illustrations that you will see is a hilarious bull rhino. That's that. And then there's some very few diagrams so that are just really simple. So for me, the rest of it's just walls of text. And unfortunately, Seth Godin, as a designer, I was hoping for more on visual inspiration, even if it was visuals that bring home the concepts and some of the metaphors or some of the ideas and the systems thinking. I think there could have been some fun ways to visualize that and help drive these concepts home for the readers. And I think that would have strengthened it in a lot of ways. So I'm landing on a solid, we don't have it here, but I wanted to say 0, maybe a 1, because there's some graphs in there, but pretty solid low ranking for visual inspiration. As a designer, you're not coming to pick up this book to try and get inspired visually. Don't anticipate that here. It's going to be vibes. It's going to be a learning about strategy and maybe some ideas on how you can expand your thinking.
That's well said. It's hard for me to disagree, obviously. That being said, I'm going to give it a 2, controversial, but only because it has the 2x2 grid in there as a diagram, and I think that's an incredibly important strategy tool. So I'm glad he gave it a little bit of love. I think most strategists will draw some kind of 2x2 grid in their practice and use it in some way. So I think it was cool that he called it out. I probably should give it a 1, but I want to give the 2x2 grid a little bit of love. So that's what I'm going to go with 2 here.
I love that.
Can you explain the 2x2 for those who don't know?
Yeah, so essentially I should have probably bookmarked it, but you have an x-axis and a y-axis, so you create this 2x2 grid, and essentially you use it to create extreme opposites for either for clients or for your strategy work. And I use it often to try to find the white space or the blue ocean for a brand or for a design experience, to say is there a way we can approach this problem different than competitors? So it's a great way to create positioning for your client or differentiation for your client, identify those things that you eventually obviously visualize as a designer. But you can use it in a lot of different ways.
Very cool. Yeah, I see a lot of those now. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I'm going to put mine at a 1. This is it's even worse for me because I don't have the physical book, so I didn't, I wasn't even able to see any of the graphs. I would have had to go to the website or the extra reading. But this book relies on stories, metaphors, and concepts rather than visuals. So you're not going to get any case studies where you can actually see things. So for our purposes, for what we do, it's probably not the best visual inspiration.
I mean, I'll say 2 things. First of all, I'll give my rating. We'll get this knocked out quick. It's a 1. And for the reasons that Michael and Matteo all brought up, actually, zoom in so I can properly make sure my face is okay. I'm like hiding there between the 2 of you. That's fine. We'll live with that.
He's hiding.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
I can bump up Matteo.
Nice. You can bring me down. That's fine.
There we go. There we go. We can still see the rating. Look at us.
Very good.
Flying in.
Okay. Everyone deselect. Everyone deselect your faces, please.
Deselect. My bad.
Someone's editing.
I think that
Michael,
might be.
Deselect, please.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that said, yeah, obviously for the reasons Matteo and Michael brought up, like this is not what this book's for. I would like to add, I brought it up prior to the recording, that cover. What is happening with that type? I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but my God, it is. Yeah, please, Michael, get Matteo's cover here. Okay. So again, I'll listen. Seth's been in the game for a long time.
Specifically, the 8.
Well, no, there's 2 notes. One is So right now, the spacing relationship of strategy RAT, that either the complete lack of a ligature, lack of a kern between A and T, just the whack, overly aggressive RA kern, one or the other. It's just completely ridiculous in terms of being unbalanced. That's number 1. But number 2, then the treatment, whatever the font is, it's giving undergrad first font experiment where you take all the cross strokes. You're adding a diagonal slash of a solid 45-degree angle that it's not helping. It's not giving anything really inspiring, quite frankly. All right. So with that said, I read the audiobook, listened to the audiobook, so I don't have commentary on the actual typeset on the inside, but besides the visuals that were pointed out, they're not necessarily the strongest to clarify the ideas. And there were a lot of complicated ideas.
I did find a grid. Here's why it's a 2. Yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
2. But and actually, I want to say this. I might wait for. You know what? I'll wait. Well, everyone voted, so I'll say this now. So the one thing, Zach, is that we did. So everyone here, because if you read 7 Habits, you already encountered a 2x2, but it wasn't named that. It wasn't given the name. So the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 axis of importance, urgency, not important, not urgent, right? So that's like an example of a 2x2.
Yeah.
Typically, that's using contraries, right, for the opposites on the X and Y axis. But usually you might use more complicated, like not this. You might do urban versus rural, right, or something like that on an axis, for example. So it's, to be fair, but the basic structure though is from you've already encountered. If you read 7 Habits, you already encountered this. But that said, yes, it is a useful tool that is a lot in strategy. So that's very fair, Zach. I do agree with that.
From a design point of view, I'm with Matteo. It's like a 0. I had to give the grid a little bit of love. That's all.
Yeah, give it a little love. That's fine. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. I think that's it. I think unless the other commentaries, we can move on because I don't think anyone's going to really come in defending us for this.
Yeah, that was plenty. That was good. Drop your ratings in the chat if you've read the book. Practical application. So on this one, all right, I'm gonna save y'all the suspense, and I'm following the, would you say, old man Jockin hater mode. I'm kind of going a little bit hater on this book for a lack of practical application, which we say is usefulness for teaching or professional practice. And the reason that I'm rating it at a solid 2 is because I'm in the middle of trying to solve a strategy problem for a client. and we're in the exploration phase, the very early phases. There's a lot of places where I'm looking for resources and digesting a lot of information, and I was hoping there would be some practical things I could lift from this book and start to apply and workshop with my team. And it's not there. It's just not there. So the book has certainly opened my mind. Seth Godin, you did a good job of like opening my mind and expanding my field of view of what strategy is and can be, and what it looks like when it fails and what it looks like when it succeeds. But there aren't a lot of steps and like practice. Here's the practical thing you can do. Now, the reason I gave it a 2, there is one thing in the book that stood out to me is like, oh, I can use that. And it's when he talks about having a conversation with someone and he finds this insight out. It's like, and she told me exactly what I needed to know. You can book a call with this guy and he'll take anybody's call, but nobody will listen to him. So if you convince him, no one's going to listen to that guy. So you'll convince the wrong guy of your argument, of your strategy. She said, but if you book a call with this other stakeholder, everybody listens to that guy and respects that guy. So convince him with the strategy, whatever strategy it is you want everyone else to adapt. And so I was like, okay, that's something I feel like is practical here out of this entire book, because a lot of the rest is, and that's as practical as it got, is kind of, so I was like, okay, I'll bump up my rating because I feel like this is a useful insight, because I've certainly spent time in my career trying to convince the wrong person of the strategy that I know will work. And then later found out that, oh, everyone listens to this person. So to hear that, it was just a reminder of, okay, yeah, you've got to find the stakeholder who has the most influence to evoke the strategy you want to put into effect.
I'm going to cut to the chase and be even meaner. I'm going to put it at a 1 for practical application. Again, like I think if I wanted to give if I wanted to tell a student or someone that wanted to learn strategy, like just from like an inspirational vibe level, I'd say, yeah, this is a great book to pick up and just get a kind of the idea of what strategy is. And there's a lot of inspirational riffs, as he calls it, a lot of interesting things to think about. But for the actual application and practice of strategy, again, like I said earlier, there's like dozens of other books, frameworks, tools, brief templates, structures, etc., that I would use before this when it comes to like teaching and applying it to a design practice or a strategy practice.
Yeah.
Oh man, for one, oh no, actually Michael was next first. Actually, not me.
Well, I'm gonna put it at a 3 only because again, you're both making valid points. Totally. Again, for me, it was like, as a professional also, it was a good reminder too for me to, to think about, I always say it to other people, but I rarely say it to myself, which is like, who am I, like, I always think to myself, like, who am I trying to serve? Like, what do they want, or what change do they want? And then, so like, this was, it kind of reminded me of that, but you're right. It's, on the other hand, I'm just like, well, I'm here again. So it's like, I needed that reminder, but I actually didn't know where to go. And you're right in the sense that, that there are other books that actually go further in depth than this. And, using all the examples was a great way of doing it. And it makes me think, like, how could this book have been better at that? So yeah, there was a little bit of a void in that. And especially, knowing his other books as well that, laid it out pretty well. Yeah, I'm thinking that this one was not as in depth as I think we all wanted it to be.
I think as Michael said, I think Matheo and Zach made very good points, but I surprisingly was very generous. I gave it a 3 because of actually the same reasoning of Michael. This is a vibe book. This book is a vibes, and for actually, like, if it was for the students, it would be a 1. I'd right there with Zach. This is not going to work for students at all, and for the reasons similar to what Matheo said. If you're looking for the real like application of the strategy, no, you're done. Not this book. But if you're a professional who already does strategy, who does higher level thinking, strategic planning, alignment of multiple resources, especially against constraints and relative to time, looking out into larger time frame, which is something I always advise chapter leads and on our weekly calls. I'm always saying, don't think about what needs to be done this week. We got to think about what's going on a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. And the longer your bigger your horizon of time is of concern, the more thriving you are as a chapter. Is the kind of one of the hallmarks I go over with chapter leads. If you're worried about the next week or the next day, we got a problem. That's called crisis. That's no strategy. That's pure putting out fires. There is no strategy. The strategy is surviving. That's coping, not thriving. So that's my point. So like I have that in my bones from just doing this for so long with Type Thursday in my professional career. So for me, this was a reminder. It's aphorisms. That's how I see this book. It's an aphorism book that if you already do this in your professional career, then you're just getting reminders, which are useful. They're very refreshingly useful. So that's why I'm not giving it a 5. No way. Like that's not going to work. But I don't think it's a 1 because of the value for. It's almost like this book is meant for someone who's already in a professional who just needs like that little reminder. Like you're kind of in the rut, you're a little down on yourself. You're just kind of like, man, what am I doing right now? Let me go back to Uncle Seth. Let's see what Uncle Seth's got to say. And you just kind of let that flow through. That'd be my assessment. So there you go.
Thomas, you hit the nail on the head. I had to kind of like look up what does aphorism mean. And it's a short, concise statement that expresses a general truth, a wise concept, or moral principle. And that is this entire book. Lots of short truths. And I think that's where I was having a lot of frustration with Seth Godin in this book, because I've heard wonderful things from him in listening to his podcast, his content, consuming some of the articles that he's written, the other books, heard great things about him in our industry. So when I picked up this book, I was hoping there was going to be a lot more practical application, but unfortunately there was just a lot of short truths that, I was just like, well, yeah, but what's next, and wanting more. Just left me wanting a lot more. So, man, well said, guys.
Yeah, Thomas is actually teaching us words like pedagogical is a word that now it's in my vocabulary. I love it. But that's the strength of this, and you're right. And it's and just like Thomas said, I think that this book does encourage long-term thinking, which is something that Thomas brought up before. How that happens is a different story. It doesn't really give you any practices or tools to do that. Not as many as I think that we wanted from this. But again, it's you can apply this over different disciplines, but it's like, I think it's kind of too easy, to be a top level like that.
I think Thomas really captured one of the biggest strengths, like tactically in the book, even though there's not a lot of tactics, is when he's talking about time. Because I do think strategy, like a strategy practice, that's one of the things that you're trying to battle is the instinct of like data-driven instant gratification when you're working with clients in either a strategy practice or a design practice. They want it now and they want it measured. And a good strategy is about, it's not going to be measured that often, and it's about setting up the long game for your business or your brand or your user experience, etc. I think he does a pretty good job of talking about that in a lot of ways. So maybe I'm a 1.5 now, but
well, this is why we do the blind reviews, and I was persuaded. The reason from you guys, Matheo and you, Zach, were very reasonable as well.
Yeah, nice. Woo! Here we go. Okay, another funny category for this book, because this is not typography, and you're not coming to this book for any typographic insight whatsoever. The printed matter of the book with the heading structure and the bullets is kind of nice. You got like a heading, you've got indentation, you've got some bulleting going on, and pretty short, easy to read paragraphs, but that lends to say like what Thomas's note is about is this like book is full of aphorisms, and that's about it. And they've got headings and a numbering system. I think my favorite part of this the typography, and there's a numbering system, like there's a running header that keeps track of like all these ideas, but then there's so many, and you're like, how do you lock in on the one that you need? But yeah, typographically, unfortunately, this book is sadly scoring low. It is a 0 to a 1. You're not coming to this book to read about typography. So if that's what you're doing, yeah, find another book like Robert Bringhurst or Ellen Lupton's, Thinking with Type. But yeah, not this one.
I agree with both those book recommendations, obviously, and I obviously agree with you as well. Don't come to this book for typography. I do agree, like it's typeset okay, like it's chucked down okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. But that's it for type here. I have so much more to add.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's going to be a real credit over there. I might even I can down where it's. Yes, I can get that little space in between the star and the one, and just hang my head over there. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, you're not going to be coming to this book. I mean, this book is about systems and decision making and leadership, but it's like and it's funny that we were talking about this because that's what like we love about typography. It's like, but it's not demonstrated in this book a bit. So we have nothing to say about it. Probably more. I can't wait for Thomas's one. He's probably gonna give it a 5.
Here comes like a 4.
Once again, the contrary is, but surprisingly not a 5. It gets a 2.
A 2
for exactly what Michael brought up, which is, so I hinted at it, was that because strategic thinking, systems thinking and design, and typography and type design is all systems thinking, because that's our closest overlap to strategy, right? And because those are training and strategy is a training in systems thinking, right? And training in systems thinking is a training in strategy. So, and because that's related to typography, very clearly so. In fact, typography is one of the areas that I find graphic designers get the strongest in the understanding of systems and process is from that. So as a result, yes, you can get insight from it, but it's super hard. Like it's there, but it requires someone who is already thinking in that way to even see what that's talking about connects. That's why it's getting a 2, but I don't think it's a net 0 or a 1 in that sense. I think there's something here. It's just a lot lower than you. It's going to be you're going to have to do some work to get it. It's there, but you got to do some work. So, but I am the contrary person. Once again, just in the other direction this time.
Yeah. Nice, great insights there. I think we're ready to jump to the next one. Yeah. Alrighty. So overall impact. Because I hadn't in my career and in school, I gotten a lot of these books about strategy. It was a lot of like figuring out, having conversations. Really, AIGA Los Angeles chapter started to make me think about strategy when I was working with Amanda Hovist and Patrick Fredrickson, the president, vice president, and then Bernie Rosari, who was, I think, the also on the executive board at the time. And they got me thinking about strategy as a team, because they would get us together as a group of designers and we would look at the problems in front of us that we were dealing with as an industry, and we would strategize about how we can solve them and think creatively and outside of the box. And I loved that. I loved every bit of that. And I wanted more. So I hadn't seen a lot of materials that kind of expanded my mind and expanded my thinking about strategy. But Seth Godin, you know what? You land on a solid 5 for me for helping me expand my mind in this area and having a lasting relevance in the field, because there weren't a lot of books that made me look at strategy in the same way that you did. So well done.
For many of the reasons you just said, Matteo, I'm also at a 5, because Seth Godin is a great marketing thinker. He's written a lot of marketing books in the space and just creative thinking in general, right? And so if someone with that kind of stature and influence in the creative space to write a book on strategy in a way that's fairly accessible, I think is impactful for the strategy space and the industry, and it's hopefully going to allow more creative professionals, designers or otherwise, to interact with strategy maybe in a way they haven't done so in the past. So I do like the impact that it's creating in the sense where, to your point, Matheo, we need more accessible strategy books, because I think strategy can feel intimidating to a lot of creative professionals, and hopefully books like this kind of disarm that feeling a little bit. So that's why I'm at a 5.
Nice.
Yeah, these are great thoughts. I'm only because I don't think I'm going to fit on here, so I'm going to put myself right there. I'm pretty close to a 5, and for all the reasons that you were saying as well. So like, again, I one of my first teaching gigs was at Chapman University, where I was teaching business for graphic designers. And one of the things that I would always talk about is that we all know how to do art and make stuff, but what does it mean as a business, as a designer, right? And when I started, I never thought that any of these things applied to me. And so, like, when I was getting into the Gary Vee books and Seth Godin and there's other people that escape me at the moment, but when I saw Chris Do interviewing Seth Godin, it reminded me, it's like that, he's one of the first people that championed, the business of graphic design. So it's like, it all ties in, and we're all equals, and to do better business, we have to do better business and know what that even means. So strategy is like, I took it real seriously it was probably about 10 years ago when I started getting into it. So a lot of these books, a lot of this thinking, and it's the reason why I'm sitting, on this video right now is because, Thomas's Type Thursday was like, had that ecosystem of not only just doing, kind of a thing that's super niche, but it's like people love it, but also there's a system behind it. And I was really eager to get into it. So this, for that reason, it really reminded me of this, like, we always should be thinking about strategy. I know that we want to do the fun stuff and making stuff, but strategy is going to, keep us around long term.
Wow.
No, great points, Michael. I really appreciate what you're saying. Sadly, I have to be the kerfuffle and kind of really dampen this, and you got it too for me. Okay. So, and here's what. Listen, because here's the thing. Is Seth Godin important for all the reasons listed out? Yes, he's a very huge influence in marketing. I think especially my introduction with Chris Do. When Chris Do interviewed him, I remember watching that interview. I remember that. So these things are, so it's not to say that Seth himself is not influential. He is. I think he very much is. But that's his marketing books. His marketing books are where I find his influence is significant. Like this, any of those other books, you would get a 5 from me instantaneously. But this is strategy. So that's different. It's related, but it's different, right? In terms of, and actually, quite honestly, in terms of Matheo, especially critique, or even everyone in this group of like, how do you apply strategy? I find for me personally, that's interaction of marketing. It's the marketing strategy interaction is where that application side shows up, in my opinion. So I think I've not seen designers really apply the strategy thinking that what Seth's pointing to, which is meaning there's a gap. I think there's still work to be done to find the books that bring that strategy thinking to designers. And I think actually in the context of AI, when we're trying to get this context, what makes designers unique? What's the response? It's taste. Yes, we've seen that discussion. But the other aspect is asking the right questions, right? Asking the right questions, having the right frameworks of consideration, addressing probability spaces and thinking through the matrices of different strategies, of different optionalities. Yes, the AI can help you iterate out those ideas, but someone has to drive it. You have to drive those points. That requires the kind of soul that the strategy, systems thinking, and design is supposed to give you. So anyways, so that's what I think that book needs to be written. I have not seen that book articulated yet. So this book is a very important, I think, contribution along the way. But in terms of that real connection for designers to understand what is the relationship constraints, the relationship to time, responding to probabilities, those are the things of needs to be considered, which are for me the biggest hallmarks from the book, which are very insightful, but you got to fight for it. You have to have lived that life of practice to understand that. and these aphorisms of this book help you remind you of it. But for influence in the industry, we have a book coming up next week called The Stroke, which absolutely in type design had a massive impact. Basically, you can't throw a rock down the street until you throw a rock down the street. There's a font made influenced by that book, basically, in the last 20, 30 years, I would say. So in contrast, so that's why it's getting a low rating for me for those reasons. But I think one of the reasons that Matheo, Zach, and Michael brought up are all very valid as well.
Wow, Thomas. I'm excited now for the next book. And I'm also excited to see, like you said, if there's a book that can come in now and talk and combine the ideas here of like what design is and becoming, and combining the strategy and the creative thinking. We need that. There's definitely a text that's like we need right now. They're out there. They're out there. Okay. Yeah. I'm curious. And for Seth in this space, I think you're right. I think he's highly influential and has had a major impact in the marketing space. I'm going to go and I have some of those books too. And I'm like, okay, I want to read more. I want to see what other insights he can give me to see with like helping solve the problems that I'm faced with right now, especially. But I felt like this book is still doing good. I think it still has lasting relevance, especially because it's not dated by, I think, anything. Like if he was talking about software or like what tools we're using now, it'd be like, okay, it's out of date. If he's talking about, maybe prompting and how we prompt now, it'd be out of date. And something he did in the edition that I have, he updated it to talk about like Claude AI and everything that's sort of happened and been implemented and how we can use those things and incorporate them in strategy. So I liked that as well. So I feel like he's had a good impact. He's kept the text up to date, and he's written about the subject in such a way that it can have a lasting influence in a way. Yeah.
I love it. And so Zach, what are some of the books that are out there that?
Yeah, there's Douglas Davis wrote a book several years ago, Creative Strategies and the Business of Design. I think that's a great one to get a kind of a stronger connection between design and business, obviously. I mentioned Roger Martin as well too. He's written a bunch of different books, and then one of them is The Business of Design. Literally, that's the title of the book, and that there's a lot of really great insights there. But also Playing to Win. It's not directly like a design and strategy book, but I think what it does unearth to me is that the commonalities between design and strategy, like Thomas brought up a good point. I think there's two main commonalities. It's questions. You're asking great questions and making great choices. I think that's what design and strategy have in common. And books like Playing to Win and Business of Design, Creative Strategy, and the Business of Design, those kind of books are kind of connecting those dots that Thomas is talking about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder because and it's like, is having great strategy, is it, what's better, to have great strategy or great execution? And I feel like I know what it is now. I know that you can't have one without the other. You could, and if you have great execution, it's not long-term. And I've been always that person who's always executes, right away. But it's like as far as planning out, I've always felt unsafe about that. So it's like, this is a topic that I definitely want to delve further into and learn more about it.
Yeah, I think both, like you said, both is needed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matheo.
I love that you gave us the Douglas Davis. I looked it up, that book, Creative Strategy and the Business of Design, and it looks like a good one. That might be working its way into season 2, maybe.
Yeah. There you go.
Highly recommend it, for sure.
So onto the wheel.
Onto the wheel.
All right, just give me a second.
Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Helps us out a ton. Drop your comments in the chat. How did you rate these books? What did you think about the overall impact? Yeah. What did you think about This is Strategy?
And here we go. Right. So let's get a new one in here. Let's do it.
Yeah. And spin the wheel.
palette, overall vibe.
That's funny because Thomas was calling it a vibe book, so you got to pick the right.
No, it's very appropriate. Very
appropriate. The wheel was listening.
Well, Seth loves really bright colored frame glasses. I know that.
Sure.
So I want to throw in some very bright fluorescent like spot color Pantones, some metallics, maybe some metallic coated on like a yellow green, lime yellow green, something like that.
Metallic Pantones, my God, like that takes me back. I used to do those all the time. Yeah, I think the navy blue and white is like perfect for this because it does feel like it's a business. Yeah, I think it's almost like the perfect color palette for it.
Yeah. Well, what about a reflex blue, Michael?
Oh, is it reflex blue?
Shout out to my production people who know that reference.
Yeah. I
I
like that. I think Michael, you're spot on too. It's like the palette that they chose with like the blue and the white is very like businessy, and this book feels like it's reaching those business people for sure. Thomas, I like, great point about his glasses. He's always wearing something that's very like fluorescent and shiny and eye catchy. So I think this could have been like something, brighter, more intense. And I like the idea of like
a minimum, just to jump in on that. What if they just made Seth kind of pop out of the counter of the O where he's placed, and they did the spot color hit on its glasses?
Oh, that would be so hilarious.
Oh, that would
be if they were gonna do it.
Yeah, because that that would have worked if they like spot colored his glasses. That would have been badass. Yeah, yeah.
That's such an easy call.
I wonder if there's a color palette that could be created for this book that kind of represents the kind of the chunkiness, or what is it, the riffs? Is there a way to like colorly, like symbolically represent the riffs?
Yeah, because there's definitely some thematic. I agree with that, Zach. There are definitely some thematics, elegance, the elegant sections, time sections, probability sections. Those usually could have a color coding system, so at least you know very quickly visually which section, like which vibe cloud are you in? Like which one are you in?
That's a good point. This could have easily been color coded. Like color modulation for this book would have been awesome. They should have done that.
But if they would have done that, that would change our visual inspiration.
Yes, it would have. That would have been a big increase.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. So with that said, we're almost done with season 2, and it's been a lot of fun to have Zach with us on our episode. We only have 2 more episodes. So it's next week. We have The Stroke, Theory of Writing. Then we have Typography, the Idea Book. Then we have Physical Type Thursday in person. It is not listed on the slide deck, but we will have one more episode, to my understanding, which is our recap episode of season 1. So that will be a lot of fun. What was the best? What was the worst? What were our big takeaways from all these books we read in season 1? So be sure to keep your eye out on the local chapters of Type Thursday or on YouTube for Type Thursday Global. Like and subscribe. As always, remember to come join us at Type Thursday Global for the Type Thursday Book Club. And obviously, I'll throw it over to Matheo. What's going on at Type Thursday Los Angeles in 2 weeks?
Yeah, in 2 weeks, we're going to be in Pasadena at HMCT Art Center. 3 presenters are going to show their work in progress, and you, the audience, get to give your feedback. So sign up, get your ticket. There's no other place that you can buy a ticket for $10 when it's on early bird, and get pizza, drinks, and food, and networking, and insights all in the same room with your favorite friends from Type Thursday LA. And also, if you're in Phoenix, Michael, you want to tell us about Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, we'll be at Dialogue again, and we've been growing, and people are really, really enjoying this. We're still in our first year here, but we are growing so fast, and we took off March, and the consensus was that everybody missed it terribly, and they were afraid that we weren't coming back, but they did. And we were excited, and they're even more excited about what we're going to be doing in June. So definitely come out and see us. We'd love to see you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Woo.
And by the way, before we close out this episode, this coming Type Thursday is Mateo's last Type Thursday. So there's a lot. So obviously, it's the big handoff of Type Thursday from Mateo's term to the next chapter lead, Andrea, who has been a greatest fan of Type Thursday in the chat of these book clubs. So Andrea, shout out to you. And so don't be sure to keep that in mind. Yeah, we're limited. Don't forget that. We got limited stock for these early birds.
Limited
be sure to get on that.
They're going to sell out.
So another reason why to be sure to check out Type Thursday, Los Angeles, especially this coming event. So with that said, obviously, Zach, it's been a pleasure with you to have us join us this week.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys. Absolutely. I love y'all. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Zach. This has been awesome.
Well, everybody, it's been a great Type Thursday book club. Be sure to like and subscribe. Grab the next book, The Stroke by Harriet Nordside. When old bird told me we might have a special guest join us for that episode as well. We'll find out if it pans out, but hopefully it will. It's going to be a lot of fun if it does work out. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.